Hi, welcome. Thank you for joining me. My name is Lauren, and I will be guiding you through a gentle yoga practice today. And the emphasis today is stretches and movements that will be helpful if you experience low back pain. So, all of you probably know this, but I feel like I've got to say it. I'm not a doctor. I'm not diagnosing anything. I'm not curing anything. I'm not telling you this will fix any lower back pain you have. But 2020 brought on lower back pain for me, and I've been going to physical therapy for a while for it, and I'm just kind of sharing what I know, what I've learned in physical therapy, what I know between yoga, personal training, my own anecdotal experience, what has really given me relief. So I just want to preface that's what this sequence is about. But so lower back pain. If you're experiencing lower back pain, these are a lot of the things that I do every day, and the things again that have really given me a lot of relief. Before we get into the sequence, I want to talk just a moment about lower back pain itself. So lower back pain is often the result of your lower back muscles always working and never getting a rest. So a good example is if you think about whenever you're sitting, especially sitting like at a desk or at a table, not necessarily sitting on the couch, but if you think about and reflect on when you sit, for example, at a desk, are you sitting to where you're allowing the chair to hold you up and you're sort of slumped into the chair, or are you upright and using your muscles to sit upright and not leaning on the back of the chair? It sounds like the slumping is sort of the bad response, right? But it's not. You need a balance between everything, because if you are constantly sitting, for those of us working from home, myself included, working from home, sitting at the desk, wherever you're at, if you're always sitting upright and not relying on the chair behind you, the back of the chair, I should say, your back muscles are doing that work. So when you're sitting, if that's 8 hours a day, if that's 40 hours a week, you're sitting, your back muscles are working that entire time. So they need a break. So like I often encourage students, think about your daily habits. When can you give your back a break? Can you sneak a forward fold or a child's pose or something that gives you relief? Can you sneak it in through the day or at the end of the day or whatever? But think about your daily habits too, because again, a lot of lower back pain, again, myself included, is your back muscles are working so hard all the time that they just get so tight and tight and tight and tight, and they lose their mobility, they lose their sort of flexibility, elasticity, and that creates that pain. So stretching your lower back is helpful. That's one of the big things we're going to do, but we're also going to open up glutes and hamstrings and the rest of the back of the spine, because tightness can kind of trickle in from other spaces. You know that your kinetic chain, your whole body has everything can kind of domino. It has this domino effect, right? So if the lower back is tight, next thing you know, your glutes are probably tight, and then your hamstrings are probably tight, or if you've got, most people from sitting have tight hamstrings and a tight lower back, so then your glutes will get tight, just kind of connect the dots, and so it has this, again, this kinetic chain of this sort of domino effect. So we're going to open up all those spaces, but and a few more. I'll talk about those when we get there. But lower back pain, movements for that, and I believe that's my spiel. Okay, you will need a strap. So you're going to need a strap or something like a strap for this sequence. We are going to use it towards the beginning of the practice. So you're going to make sure that that is close by and handy. It doesn't have to be a yoga strap. It can be a towel, a belt, whatever you've got handy. And I think we can get started. So we're going to start on our backs. Again, make sure the strap is handy. We don't need it right away, but earlier in the practice, we will be using it. Okay. So So come on down onto your back, find a comfortable position, and especially if you really are experiencing low back pain, some of you are probably doing this sequence and you probably don't have lower back pain, you're just curious what is in the sequence, or you just still want to move, but you might not have lower back pain and you're just moving around, you're just here for the ride. And that's great too. But if you do experience lower back pain, really find what feels good for you. So, and that should be happening all the time, whether you have low back pain or not, or whether you've got any sort of issue in your body or not. Truly find what feels good for you and see if you can incorporate that more, or I'll get into it in a little bit. But even here, maybe knees are bent and feet are flat, maybe legs are long, maybe you're in sort of a legs up the wall here for just a little bit. Whatever you need, you find what works for you and you settle in. So find a comfortable position and let your body relax. And turn your attention to your breath. Notice your natural breath. Noticing the organic ebb and flow of your breath. The ease at which you breathe. Even though your attention is on your breath, that doesn't mean you're manipulating it. It doesn't mean you are altering it. You're just bringing your attention to the breath. Notice how your breath has a soft, light, gentle quality to it as it fills your lungs, fills your body. It fills you with that easy, soft, gentle energy. And you can stay right here. You can stay right here with your natural breath. Or I'll walk you through the Ujjayi breath. The Ujjayi breath is a breathing pattern where on the exhalation, on the out breath, if there are or were other people in the room with you, they would be able to hear you breathe out. They would be able to hear your exhalation. And that sound is coming from the back of the throat. There will be a slight restriction in the back of the throat. The same restriction you create in the back of the throat when you try to whisper. So that same feeling, that same action that happens in your throat when you whisper, we'll be channeling that on the exhalation. Okay, but let everything relax. We'll breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. Breathing out the mouth as if you're trying to fog up a mirror right in front of your face. So you continue breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Now again, continue at your own pace. And again, it's as if you're trying to fog up a mirror that's right in front of your face. Again, that same action that happens in your throat when you're whispering. So if you can whisper, you can do the Ujjayi breath. Sometimes students think, oh no, I can't figure it out. Yes, you can. You can do it. And if you're feeling really comfortable with the Ujjayi breath, maybe you are experienced with it, maybe you do this with your mouth closed, but there is still a sound happening on the exhalation. This is again the Ujjayi breath. It brings heat and warmth into the body. Let's do a few more rounds like this. Let's take about 3 more rounds just like this. And then slowly return back to your natural breath. Breathe in a way that is effortless and organic. And take a moment to notice how you feel. Keeping your attention inward. If it feels right for you, you might take the next few moments to set an intention for your practice. Silently and slowly repeat a positive word or phrase to allow it to settle in your heart. And then begin to deepen your breath. I can imagine those breaths filling your lungs, filling your body, and then slowly propelling your body, creating some movement. Maybe you rock your head side to side, wiggle fingers and toes, move arms and legs. Take a few moments to just move in any way that feels good. Maybe a full body stretch, maybe hug your knees into your chest. Maybe stay still, maybe add movement, whatever feels good. Let's stay for about 2 more breaths. Okay. All right. And we're gonna meet staying on our back with the knees bent, feet flat. I like feet and knees about hip distance apart here. Okay, arms can just rest comfortably alongside the body. We're gonna move into our pelvic tilt. So the pelvic tilt is something that was a recommendation from my physical therapist and is something that I have heard from a lot of teachers who have a background in therapeutic yoga, somatic yoga. This is something that I try to do every single day. So this is a good one. I like to think that all of the poses and movements are good ones, but this is an especially appropriate one for the sequence. So arms relax, shoulders relax, let the back of your head be heavy on the ground. As you inhale, arch your back, lift your lower back, lift your mid back, point your belly button towards your thighs. Your seat is on the ground, your shoulders are on the ground, but you're arching your back. Your back sort of looks like the shape of a rainbow. And then as you exhale, you'll push your lower back, mid back, ribs down into the ground. Tuck your tailbone a little bit like you're pointing your belly button more towards your face. We're gonna move with the breath. Inhale as you lift, arch, point your belly button towards your thighs. Exhale, push down, drop the low back, drop the mid back, tuck your tailbone, belly button to the face. Inhale as you lift. Exhale as you lower. We're gonna keep moving just like this. Now, again, especially for those of you, if you have lower back pain, maybe you find that one part of this movement feels really good, brings you some relief, and maybe the other one kind of doesn't. So you can make one part of this or both parts of this as mild as you need to be. We are just warming up. We're just starting. So this isn't meant to be deep. It isn't meant to be intense. It's just to start to get some of these things moving and loosened up in a way that maybe they haven't been so far yet today. Okay, so lifting and lowering. So for me, and I think this is common for people with lower back pain, the lift
lifting up, that arch doesn't really feel so good. So I make that kind of mild. I don't lift up as high as I possibly can because that's not what my body is asking for. Remember that all of this is doing something that feels good. So the lifting up, that arch in my back doesn't really feel so great. So I make that one mild, but then as I drop down, I really drop down. I make sure I feel my core turn on because that's a big part of the practice too. Turning on the core, tucking the tailbone, scooping the low belly button towards the face. I really emphasize that part because I know that that's what my body needs. Your body might be craving the opposite. And so just really notice with each and every movement, you can make everything as mild or as intense as you would like them to be, as you need them to be, to whatever degree is appropriate for you. So always keep that in mind. Okay, let's do just a few more, a handful more, just moving with your breath. And notice that this is the first thing we're doing. So this, if you are ever at home stretching, doing yoga, this is a good place to start. If you don't know where to start, if you don't know, well, I don't know what needs to get warmed up first, this is a good place. This is a good kind of touchstone you can come back to. Okay. All right, now just allow your spine and your pelvis to come to neutral. So you're neither lifting nor pushing. You're sort of in the middle. That's neutral. Okay. You're going to keep your spine in neutral. Now we're going to focus on our hamstrings. We're going to open the backs of the thighs in hopes of opening, again, the backside of the body. So take a deep breath in. As you breathe out, hug your right thigh in towards your belly. Bring your hands to the back of your thigh as opposed to the top of your shin. So hands around the hamstrings, not the shin. Okay, now again, doing what feels good for you, you might draw your thigh really close into your belly, almost like your kneecap is pointing towards your face. You might have your thigh far away from your body, so your kneecap is pointing up towards the sky. You do what feels good for you. Okay, but you're gonna relax your shoulders. You're gonna relax your arms. You're holding onto your thigh, but you're not squeezing. You're not creating tension. We're trying to release tension. So soften as best as you can through the arms and the hands. We're gonna move with our breath. As you inhale, reach your right foot up towards the ceiling, lengthening that right leg. Exhale, bend your right knee. Let your heel come back towards the back of the thigh. Inhale, lengthen the right leg. Exhale, bend. We're going to keep moving just like this. Inhale, lengthen the leg. Exhale, lower. Okay. Now keep moving just like this. Now, if you're like me and your thigh is away from your belly, when you lift your leg up, your leg might straighten. It might come to a straight line. It might not. That's okay. But if you have your thigh drawn in towards your belly, when you lengthen your leg, it will not be a straight line. That's okay. That's absolutely okay and is very much expected if the thigh is drawn in closer. The goal is not to straighten the leg. The leg might not ever get straight. That's okay. That's not the goal. That's not the point. That doesn't mean you're doing this pose poorly or bad. And in case you're not looking at the screen, I'm using air quotes because you can't do a pose bad or wrong or poorly, or there are unsafe and less than ideal ways to do some yoga poses, but stuff like this, especially these warm-ups, it's really about moving in a way that feels good. So do that. Let's do just a few more, just a handful more. Keep relaxing your hands, relaxing your arms, relax your shoulders, relax your throat, your neck, your jaw. Let's do about one more, just like this. Move with your breath. And then next time that you bend your right knee, you can slowly release your hands from your right thigh. Let the right foot come back down onto the ground. Take a moment or two here, just pausing before we go into the second side, noticing how your two sides feel a little different. We'll come back, knees bent, feet flat. Take a deep breath in. As you breathe out, hug your left thigh in towards your belly. Hold on to the back of the thigh as opposed to the top of the shin. Now, when you're here, thinking about changing your daily habits, can you change the cross of your hands if you've interlaced your hands, if you're interlacing your fingers, which you might not be, and that's okay. But if you are interlacing your fingers on and off your mat, can you think about sliding your fingers over one so you're taking the grip that feels sort of awkward and uncomfortable? It's because you don't ever do it. So let's try to do it more. Okay, so again, the thigh might be away from your belly. It might be in. It's going to change the way it feels. You do what feels good, but you're going to inhale, reach your left foot up towards the sky. Exhale, bend the left knee. Heel drops down towards the back of the thigh. Inhale, lengthen the left leg. Exhale, bend the knee. Keep moving with your breath. Inhale, lengthen, reach up. Exhale, bend, let it lower down. Okay, now, again, you can position your thigh and your leg exactly how you need it. The leg might straighten, the leg might not straighten. Your left foot and ankle might be active, it might be passive. But either way, you're going to soften your hands, your wrists, your shoulders, your chest, throat, neck, jaw, even the muscles of your face. Something to think about in any type of yoga practice, but I think especially in a gentle class, is something to think about, is there will be some muscles and body parts that are working. Your arms are working a little bit to hold on to the thigh, and the thigh is working a little bit, but that doesn't mean your right leg, for example, needs to have any tension. It doesn't mean that your throat, neck, or jaw, muscles of the face, your lips, if you're pushing your tongue against the roof of your mouth, all of those things, can you soften some spaces, even though some other spaces are working? Just because tension or exertion is in some spaces doesn't mean it needs to be everywhere. So I think that's really an important thing to think about when you're practicing any type of yoga, but I think especially in gentle, because again, the intention and the purpose behind all of this is feeling good, reducing tension, reducing stress. So can you do that even on sort of a micro level? All right, let's do a few more, just like this. Getting into the hamstrings, opening the back of the thigh. Let's do one more. And then the next time you bend your left knee, you can release your hands from your thigh, let your left foot come back down onto the ground. Maybe you lengthen your legs, maybe you keep the knees bent, but again, just notice how you feel. Take a few moments. Okay. All right. We are going to stay on our back for a little bit longer, so make sure that you're comfortable. We're going to grab our strap. So you're going to grab your strap. Again, it might not be a quote-unquote yoga strap. That's okay. It might be a belt, a towel, whatever you need, something that will get the job done. Doesn't have to be fancy. Okay. So you're going to take the strap and hug your right thigh in towards your belly and hook the strap on the ball mound of your right foot. So the ball mound of your foot, I don't really want it on the arch. I certainly don't want it on the heel. The ball mount of your foot is the space below your toes, the base of the toes. So between the toes and the arch in that space. And you kind of want to put it sort of at a diagonal so it's not crushing the pinky toe. All right. Okay. Now, here's sort of some options. You choose what feels good for you. I often, when I'm teaching this in a group setting, especially in a mixed setting with maybe beginners or in a group that I know I have a lot of injuries, I often tell people to hold onto the strap with both hands, but slide their arms down so that the elbows are resting on the ground. That will help soften shoulders, throat, neck, jaw, muscles of the face, okay? So that's an option. But I've found in my own personal practice, that's not what I do. So I'm going to give you both options. What I tend to do is I just take my right hand and I bring it all the way up as close as I can towards the foot. I wrap the strap around my hand and I just use my right arm and I keep that right arm straight. Now, you do what feels best. But wherever you're at, I do want you to drop your shoulders down into the mat. Your shoulders should be resting on the ground and shoulders a little bit away from the ears. They don't need to shrug up. They don't need to hike up. Okay, now what we're looking for is reaching the right heel up towards the sky, your right toes towards the wall behind you in the same direction that your right kneecap is pointing or the crown of your head is pointing. Now, listening to your lower back. You might keep your left knee bent, left foot flat on the ground, but if it's okay on your lower back, you might slowly lengthen your left leg along the mat. Now, if you do that, make sure that the foot is active. Left heel is pushing forward. Left toes reach to the sky. That's going to help your lower back. Okay. All right. So each of these poses, we're going to move through a few poses. We're going to hold them for several moments, several breaths. So we're going to reach that right heel up towards the sky. If you're feeling like you need a little bit more of a stretch in the back of your right thigh, think about pulling on the strap just a little bit, like you're getting your toes a little bit closer over your face. So right now your toes are probably hovering over your hip or your ribs. But if you're looking like you need more of a stretch, can you bring your toes a little bit closer towards your face, like they're sort of hovering over your face? Okay, let's take 2 deep breaths here. Okay, from here, I'm gonna scoot over, just in case you're looking at the screen, I'm gonna scoot over because I'm a little too close to this curtain, but okay, you're gonna stay where you're at. So from here, now, I do want you to hold on to the strap with your right hand. And this is again where I like to personally wrap it around, kind of bring it in close. But if it's more comfortable for you to have bent elbows, that's okay. I want your shoulders relaxed. All right. Left hand is going to come to your left ASIS bone. It's the bony part of your hip that is currently facing the ceiling. Sort of if you were to start at your belly button, you'd go over to the left about 6 inches and down maybe 2 inches or so. That's your ASIS bone. It's the front of the hip bone. I want your hand there because that ASIS bone is going to want to lift up towards the ceiling, and we don't want it to. Okay, again, protecting your lower back. So allow that left ASIS bone to stay low. Inhale. Exhale as you let the right leg fall over to the right. Now, you're only letting that right leg drop over to the right as much as you can while keeping the left ASIS bone low to the ground. The minute your left ASIS bone starts to lift up, a few things have happened. You're now taking away from the stretch in your right inner thigh, which is where you should be feeling it. You're also putting your lower back at risk in a risky situation, let's say that. So, left ASIS bone down, left foot flexed, push the heel away from you, toes to the sky. Now with your right leg, you should be feeling something through your right inner thigh. For a little bit more in your right inner thigh, can you externally rotate the thigh? And I'll describe what that means. Can you think about reaching your right heel up towards the ceiling and your right toes down, almost like you're trying to get the back of your right thigh up towards the ceiling as opposed to the back of your mat or top of your mat or whatever direction, that way, like you're trying to rotate it up. So right heel towards the sky, right toes towards the floor, externally rotating your thigh. So all of that happens at the thigh and at the hip. We're going to take 2 breaths here. If that external rotation didn't happen for you, that's A-okay, I promise. Okay. Inhale. Exhale as you slowly return that leg back up towards the center. Okay. Now we're going to switch the grip with our hands. So you're going to use the left hand to grab onto the strap. Now your right hand is going to come to your right hip crease by your right hip flexor. So this webbing between your pointer finger and your thumb, I want that spot at that hip crease. So I keep acting like I'm mirroring you and I keep saying left when I really mean right. I apologize for that. Okay, so your right thumb is sort of coming in, pointing more towards your groin, where the other fingers are pointing around more towards your backside. Okay, so Now we're going to keep that hip crease down to the ground, just like the left hand pushed into the left ASIS bone. Inhale. Exhale, let the right leg drop over to the left, maybe about 6 to 8 inches. We're not going far. This is a subtle stretch, but should be deep. So your right foot is sort of hovering over your left hip, or maybe just to the left of your left hip. Okay. Now, the hope is that you're feeling something through your outer right glute, outer right thigh, outer right leg, IT band sort of area. Okay. Few ways we can make this a little deeper. First is the foot itself. Notice that most of what you're feeling is in the upper part of the leg, thigh and hip. That's good, but we could make it extend a little longer. So can you sort of sickle your right foot like you're now pointing your right toes down towards the ground? You'll feel it through the outside of the ankle, outside of the calf. Okay. You still need it a little deeper. You're going to place with your right hand, place where it's at. You're going to draw your right hand, like you're drawing your right thigh away from you, almost like you're trying to, again, externally rotate. Like now this time, it's like you're trying to get your right inner thigh to shine towards your face and your right outer thigh to point more towards your left foot. I hope that's making sense. But you'll just feel a lot through the leg. Let's stay for 2 more breaths. Okay. Now from here, you're going to release your right hand. Let your right arm just drop over to the right with the palm facing up. Inhale. Exhale, let the leg come all the way over to the left. We're going to come into a supine twist. I'm going to scoot over again. So that right leg is going to stay straight as it drops over to the left. Left leg might stay straight. I like to kind of just bend that left knee a little bit. But it's now like your belly button is pointing over to the left side, but we want to keep the right shoulder down on the ground, right shoulder down on the ground, even though the belly button is pointing to the left. Let's keep the neck in neutral and just keep looking straight up at the ceiling, straight up overhead. So this is a supine twist. This is another recommendation right from the physical therapist. A lot of these stretches, but a supine twist for sure, a static one where we're just holding it for a few breaths. Notice what's going on. Notice how you're feeling. And let's take one more breath here. And then as you inhale, allow that leg to come back up towards the center, back up where we started. Bottom of the foot is facing the ceiling. Okay, now grab onto your strap with both hands, keeping your right leg long and straight, bottom of the foot facing the ceiling. Grab onto your strap, use your arms, your hands to remove the strap. Okay, leg is still reaching up towards the sky. Inhale, really reach the heel up. Exhale as you slowly lower, like you're pushing your right heel away from you as you lower, lowering it down very slowly, very controlled. Once that leg comes down onto the ground, let both legs lengthen, let your feet flop away from each other, and take a moment to notice how your 2 sides feel very different from one another. One more breath. Okay. All right. Let's slowly bend both knees. Bring the feet flat onto the ground. We're gonna do the same thing on the second side. All right. So, grabbing onto the strap, hug your left thigh, draw your left thigh in towards your belly. Use your hands to place the strap on the ball mount of your foot. Again, the ball mount of your foot sort of at this diagonal. And then reaching that left heel up towards the sky. Again, you hang on to the strap how you need to. So that might mean straightening the arms and having both hands on the strap. It might mean sliding the hands down. It might mean just one hand. Truly whatever feels best. When I teach group classes, I always sort of think what's the absolute safest and what's a general, something that will work in most bodies. But now that you're practicing at home, you don't have to do what feels good in most bodies. You're supposed to do what feels good in your body. So truly tweaking things as you see fit. Okay, so maybe that means keeping the right knee bent, right foot flat on the ground. Maybe it means lengthening. Really pay attention if you do have lower back problems though, to lengthen that right leg, keep the foot flexed, leg is active, right heel pushes out, right toes reach to the sky. Now before we get too settled into this, let me just talk about the external rotation here because I meant to do it on the first side, and I apologize if that was a little confusing because that's an anatomical term that I don't think the average yoga practitioner knows, and so I hate when I throw out terms without actually explaining it. Right where you're at now, notice that your left foot looks like one half of the number 11, right? It's a straight line. So imagine making your left foot look like one half of the letter V. So rotating it out, rotating your left leg to the left a little bit so it looks like one half of the letter V, the left side of the letter V. That's external rotation. So when I'm asking you to do external rotation, that's it. I will want you to think about your left foot sort of making that, instead of an 11, going to a V, if that helps. Okay, I meant to say that on the first side, I apologize. All right, but we're back to this one half of an 11, I guess. So toes are pointing straight back, heel is reaching to the sky, shoulders are relaxed, arms are relaxed, and you might just stay here, keep focusing on flexing both feet. You might focus on drawing your left foot a little bit closer towards your face, like your left toes are reaching towards the wall behind you. Again, the same direction that the crown of your head is pointing. And here we're opening the back of the leg, just in the hamstrings. Let's take about 2 more breaths here. Now from however you're holding onto the strap, hold onto the strap with just your left hand, holding onto both ends of the strap. This is one where I find that not even just me, most students like to kind of bring that hand a little bit closer to the foot as opposed to down towards the ends. Okay, right hand is going to come to your right ASIS bone, the bony part of your hip that's facing the ceiling. That hand is going to be grounded onto that hip. Inhale. Exhale, let the left leg drop over to the left to whatever degree you can while keeping the right ASIS bone down. Okay. So you're pushing through both heels, right heel. If that right leg is long, it's active. Again, that is for your lower back and your knee, actually. Okay. So you're pushing through your left heel. Left toes are pointing back, again, towards the wall behind you. Right hip is drawing down for the safety of your lower back and to keep the integrity of the left inner thigh stretch. Now this might be all you need, but maybe you externally rotate. Think about that left foot looking like one half of the letter V, but it doesn't come from the foot, it comes from the hip. Rotate the whole leg like you're reaching the left heel to the sky, like you're trying to get your left inner thigh to shine more towards your face, more towards the wall behind you instead of just the ceiling. Okay, now we're hoping to stretch the inner part of the thigh, inner part of the leg, inner part of the hamstring even. Let's stay for 2 more breaths. Inhale. Exhale as you slowly return that leg back to the center. Bottom of the foot faces the ceiling, back sort of where we started. We're going to switch the grip with the hands. Grab onto the strap with your right hand. Left hand comes to your left hip flexor, your left hip crease. The webbing between your pointer finger and your thumb, that's what's going to hook there. It's like your left thumb is sort of curling in closer towards your groin, while your other fingers are wrapping around more towards your glute, more towards your backside. Okay, so that's going to help you ground. I want you to think about here, your left hand is pushing your left hip almost away from your face. I want you to think about lengthening your spine. So with your hand here, draw your left hip away from the ribs, away from the shoulders, away from the face, and down into the ground. All right, inhale. Exhale, let the left leg cross the body just a little bit, just a few inches, maybe 6 to 8 inches, maybe not even. This is an IT band stretch. This is going to be a tight space for you if you do a lot of walking, running, bike riding, things like that. Things that are, or it's one foot in front of the other, very linear. And so yours might be really tight. Mine's really tight. I've been trying to go for walks every day, and I have neglected my IT bands. And so you might be feeling a lot. That's all right. Okay, now you might add a little bit more though. You might drop your left toes, like you're pointing the toes towards the ground, hiking the heel up. Then you'll feel it through the outer part of the left ankle and calf. And you might, from the hip, externally rotate. Now, it's not going to be so much in the foot, but it's that same sort of rotating out, like you're now trying to get your inner thigh to shine towards your face. And the IT band, almost the outer thigh IT band, like it's trying to shine towards the wall. I suppose that's in front of you. I guess, is that front? Is that forward? I don't know. When I'm in the room with you, I often sort of the windows, the door, the mirrors, the whatever, but I don't know where you're at. And I hope this is making sense. So feel a stretch to the outer part of that left leg. Let's take 2 more breaths here. Okay, and then inhale. Exhale, let the left leg cross all the way over. Now you can release your left hand. Left hand will reach out and over to the left. And we're going to come into a twist. So that left leg drops over. Right leg might stay straight. I like to bend my right knee usually a little bit. Now we're coming into a twist that should feel good in your back. It's like your belly button is pointing over to your right. You're going to keep your neck in neutral by looking just straight up at the ceiling. But keep the left shoulder down on the ground. Left shoulder down on the ground. Left hip is up. The left shoulder down. Let's take a few deep breaths here. One more breath. Okay. And then inhale, slowly return that leg back to the center, reaching the foot back up towards the sky, bottom of the foot back up towards the ceiling. Okay, you're going to keep your left leg still, bottom of the foot still reaching up towards the sky, left leg strong and long and lifted. You're going to use your hands to release the strap, move the strap off. Inhale, reach your left heel up. Exhale as you slowly lower and lengthen that leg as it comes down, like you're reaching your heel away from your face. Once the leg comes down onto the ground, let both legs lengthen, let your feet splay out. Think of that natural external rotation that happens. If you were to look at your feet, they probably look like a V instead of an 11, right? So this sort of natural external rotation. Just notice how you feel. All right, take a deep breath in. As you breathe out, hug your knees into your chest. We'll stay here for a little bit. So you can stay still. You might rock from side to side. That always feels really good in my back. And you might play with really maybe hugging your knees into your chest more or less so that just the right spot gets massaged into the ground as you're here. So for me, I notice if my thighs come away from my belly and I rock side to side, I feel it more in my sacrum. I feel it more in the lower sections of my back. But if I hug my knees in, I feel it more in sort of my mid-back, more closer to the ribs. And so just finding that spot. Take maybe one more breath here. All right, we're gonna come back to the center. Now this is something that feels really good in my back, and so I'm gonna share it with you. It takes a little bit of effort, but it's usually worth it. It is meant to feel like a massage on your spine. If it feels like anything more than a massage, skip it. Totally optional. It should feel like a massage. It should feel comfortable. You're gonna hug your knees into your chest. You're gonna hug them in tight. You're gonna draw your chin into your chest. If you're a Pilates person, think the C curve, really rounding your spine, lifting the shoulder blades off the ground. We're gonna rock and roll. So you're gonna roll forward and back, go along the whole length of the spine, not the neck, but the whole length of the spine. So really round, 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 round. Think cat pose, C curve, really rounding out. Again, if this is too intense, depending on the thickness of your yoga mat, or if you're on hardwood, it just might not be an option. So it might not be you, but this should feel good. Notice if there's any flat spots. Are you finding any spot where you're sort of, there's a thud when you hit the ground? That's tightness. So notice if your lower back sort of has that thud quality to it when it touches the ground. It's just tight. It's just showing you exactly where that tightness is. And I even kind of like to go almost a little sideways. It feels really good. Okay, and then eventually make your way up. Okay. All right, we're done with the strap. You can totally set the strap off to the side. We're going to set up in tabletop for just a little bit. So you're going to grab blocks if you have them. Maybe even put some padding under your knees. We'll be here a little bit. All right, we're just gonna do a few cat and cows here, just a little bit more movement for the spine. So from tabletop, hands under shoulders, knees under hips. As you inhale, drop your belly, point your belly button toward your thighs. But lift your chest, lift your heart, look forward. As you exhale, tuck your tailbone, point your belly button towards your face. Draw your ribs to the sky, chin to the chest, look towards your belly button. Inhale as you drop the belly, but lift the chest, look forward. Exhale, tuck the tailbone, draw the ribs in, chin to the chest, look to the belly. We'll do a few more just like this. So this is basically the actions of the pelvic tilt that we were doing, just a little bit deeper. We can go through a fuller range of motion because the ground isn't resisting. We're not pushing into the ground. We can actually really create that shape. So again, maybe one of these poses feels really good for you and one just feels So you can make one mild and one deep. You do what feels good. I don't know if I've said that yet, but you should move in a way that feels good for you. Okay, let's do about one more of each. Okay. All right. Now, if you do have blocks, I would suggest grabbing them. I like them at their medium height. If you don't have blocks, that is a-okay. It's just an option. You'll be able to do all of these movements all the same. All right. So we're going to focus a little bit more on our hips, and I'll explain why in a moment. But we're going to step the right foot forward in between the blocks, in between your hands. We're coming to a low lunge. So you might want to pad your left knee because the left knee will be resting there for a while. Okay, I actually think I'm going to bring them up even higher. All right, so we're going to focus on opening our left hip flexor for a few moments. So the front part of your left hip, sort of around that ASIS bone in that hip crease. So you're going to push your right heel into the ground like you're going to lift your hips up towards the sky. I want you pushing actively into the floor to lift up, and then allow your hips to come forward.
Now, we want to keep a tuck of the tailbone ever so slightly. So it's like you're pointing your belly button up towards the ceiling, up towards your face, not, and I'll show you. So this is a little bit of a tuck of the tailbone, if you can see, and then I'll allow the opposite. If I let my belly button point down towards the ground, I'm sort of sticking my seat out. This is not gonna open the hip flexor at all. If anything, I'm starting to feel something in my right hamstring, which is not the intention. So scooping the low belly, tucking the tailbone, belly button towards the face as opposed to the floor. So you'll feel something through your left hip flexor. Okay, now you might keep your hands low. You might bring your hands to the top of your thigh and stand up tall. If you stand up, if you sort of lift up, you might have to lean back a little bit. Oftentimes when I see students and even yoga teachers do this pose, it looks a lot like this, sort of. So if you look at my back thigh, notice that it's sort of at a diagonal line. I don't love this for a lot of reasons. I won't get into it. I'm okay if your left thigh is vertical, if it's a straight up and down line, because that, if you have that tuck of the tailbone, you will still stretch your hip flexor. You don't have to be here. So that really doesn't feel good. I don't like that. We won't get into it. It doesn't feel good in my body. I have a lot of sort of anatomical problems with it, but you can be honestly a straight line from the left knee to the crown of the head. As long as you've got that tuck of the tailbone, you will feel it in your left hip flexor. That's what I want. We're gonna stay here for several breaths. I'll talk just a little bit more about the hip flexor. Your hip flexor, if your hip flexors are tight, and they get tight from sitting, walking, running, bike riding, if you sleep on your side, anytime your knees are in towards your chest, hip flexor gets tight. So most people have really, really tight hip flexors. If your hip flexors are super tight, it will pull your pelvis forward, sticks your seat out, crunches your lower back, can cause lower back problems. So tight hip flexors really do contribute to that domino effect, right? They pull this, which pulls that, which tightens this. And your hip flexors can really contribute to lower back pain. So if you have lower back pain, yes, you want to spend time with the lower back, but you also kind of need to look outwards, right? Okay. I always think of your muscles and your joints and just your whole body sort of like roots of a tree. You don't really necessarily see how they're intertwined and connected, but they are, and you sort of have to expand where you're looking. Okay. Let's take 2 more breaths here. Keep tucking the tailbone. Feel that stretch to the left hip flexor. Okay. All right. Now we're going to come back into tabletop. So you might lower your hands down and give yourself a few moments in tabletop. Maybe I actually like to kind of lengthen that left leg back, give the ankle a new orientation, straighten the knee, move the hip around. There's no rush when you're doing 2 poses, or a pose on both sides, I should say. There's no rush to get right from one to the next. Move around, sort of feel out, what did that pose do? How do things feel different? Okay, and then when you're ready, we will switch sides. So maybe putting some padding under that right knee, stepping the left foot forward, in between the hands, in between the blocks. Now hands might stay low. You might lift up a little bit more, whatever you need. Okay, but you're gonna push down into the ground. That left heel is gonna push down because I don't want you sinking and sagging. We're lifting up. There's a little bit of effort. There's a little bit of work happening. Not a whole lot, but a little bit. And again, because that back thigh, I really don't want it to be super diagonal and slanted. It's okay if it is a little bit, but I'm also okay with it being vertical, with it being fairly straight. It's not about that action. I'm more concerned with tucking your tailbone. Again, that pelvic action, because that's what your hip flexor does. It wants your pelvis to drop down, but we want it to lift up. So you think about lengthening through the front of the right hip, And then, even though you're pushing into the ground and you're tucking your tailbone, can you relax some other spaces in your body? Can you find one or two muscles or body parts or areas in your body that you could probably stand to soften a little bit more and you'd still have the integrity of the pose? So for example, softening your jaw does not lessen the stretch or the intensity or the integrity of the hip flexor, right? So can you soften chest, shoulders, arms, wherever you're at? And we'll stay for several breaths. Take about 3 more breaths here. And then when you're ready, we'll return back to tabletop. Maybe lower the hands down, step that left leg back, and maybe just move that right leg around, move that right hip around. Stay for another breath. All right, we are going to come back down onto our backs. You don't need blocks. I'm going to support something under my head. You really don't need anything else. Just come on back down. Okay. So we never even really made it to standing in the sequence, but we are still going to work. We've got one last little bit of work, and then we'll stretch a little bit more. So we want to strengthen your abs. We want to work your core because, again, a big part of lower back pain is your back muscles doing all the work. Not just doing work all the time, but doing the work your front should do. But if your core is not strong, if the front side is not strong, your back chimes in, steps in. It's a helper like that, which is nice, but is problematic. So core also needs to be strengthened. Lower back pain, a big part of it is strengthening your core. I always like to do the movement we're about to do. I think this is one of the safest, most effective ways to work your core. I've been to physical therapy more than once with different physical therapists. They have all asked me to do this. And this is sort of the standard that they ask all their clients to do. And I always like to do it, I'm saying all this now, I always like to do it after stretching my hip flexors. That was intentional because sometimes when you work your core, your hip flexors are helpers too, and they want to chime in, they want to do the work, they want to get in there, but they're not supposed to. So I like to stretch hip flexors, then work the core. Okay. So arms alongside the body, palms down. Arms are going to be relaxed, shoulders are relaxed. We're going to do just a few pelvic tilts. So as you inhale, lift your lower back, mid-back, point your belly button towards your thighs. Exhale, push down into the ground, tuck the tailbone, belly button to the face. Just a few more like this. Move with your breath. Relax your shoulders. Relax your legs. Your legs shouldn't even really be working here. It's moving your pelvis, starting to sort of, again, unlock some of these things. Move them around. Getting your body ready for what's coming next. Okay, do one more of each. Okay, all right, we'll do one last one together. So as you inhale, lift your belly, lift your ribs. Exhale, push down into the ground. We're gonna hold it there. So push your lower back, your mid back, your ribs into the floor, into the ground, belly button towards the face, abs are turned on. That's what we want. We want abs doing the work, certainly not your lower back. If that ever happens, if you're ever working your core and your lower back turns on, stop what you're doing, okay? All right, and hip flexors also should not chime in here. Not the end of the world if they do, but hopefully they don't. You're gonna keep your left leg as it is. Keep drawing the ribs down.
Inhale as you lift the right leg up like it's resting on a coffee table. Like your right heel is resting on an ottoman or a coffee table. Right shin is parallel to the floor. Right knee is bent at a right angle. That's crucial because notice with your right leg, draw your right knee in towards your belly. Is your core working? Not really. Draw your knee away, shin parallel, knee at a right angle. Your core is working now, isn't it? Okay, that's what we want. We're just going to do one leg at a time, exactly like this. So take a deep breath in. Exhale as you let the leg come towards the ground, tap or hover the ground, and slowly bring it back up. Relax your shoulders, but work your core. Inhale as the leg comes down towards the floor, taps or hover the ground, bring it back up. Exhale. We'll do a few more. Inhale as you lower. Exhale to lift. Engage your core. So as you're moving, as you're breathing, make sure the movements and the breath are slow and controlled, very focused, very thoughtful, very mindful. This is not meant to be fast. It's not meant to be quick or really get your heart rate up high. It's meant to be a slow, controlled action where you feel deep muscles in your core working hard. These are the muscles that should be taking on some of the work that your back might be taking on throughout the day. So these need to get pumping and moving and working and stronger so that they learn to chime in more throughout the day as opposed to always relying on your poor little lower back muscles that just want to break. Let's do about 3 more just like this. Can you relax your left leg? Can you relax your left foot? Can you relax your shoulders, your arms, your throat, neck, and jaw? Let's do 1 more on the right leg. Inhale as you lower. Exhale as you lift. When you get to the top, hold it for a moment. Inhale. Exhale, let the right leg come all the way back down, right foot resting on the ground. Give yourself a few moments. You can lift the ribs, maybe come back to that pelvic tilt, maybe let the knees sway side to side. And if you ever do take this knee swaying side to side movement, which I also really like as well, same thing with hugging your knees into your chest. Notice what part of your back is sort of getting that massage. You can have your feet away from you, close to you. You could be tilting and rocking, lifting and rocking. Just play with all these different combinations that bring you relief. Okay. All right. We certainly have to continue working our abs just with the opposite leg. So we're going to do 1 pelvic tilt together. So as you inhale, lift up, point the belly button towards the thighs. Exhale as you push down into the ground, tuck the tailbone, belly button to the face, hold it there. So push, lower back, mid back, ribs down, core is engaged, belly button to the face. All of that's happening, but your shoulders and arms are relaxed. Right leg is relaxed, but left leg, inhale, lift it up like it's resting on a coffee table. Left knee is bent at a right angle, left shin is parallel to the ground. Okay, relax the right leg and foot, relax the shoulders, but keep pushing lower back down. Inhale, let the left leg lower down, let it tap or hover over the ground. Exhale, bring it back up. Move with your breath. Inhale as you lower. Exhale, lift. Inhale, lower. Exhale, lift. Now again, check in with your right leg. You don't need to push your right foot into the ground. Your right thigh or hamstring or just right leg shouldn't be feeling like it's tense and tight and shaking. Core maybe, abs maybe, but let the right leg relax. Now keep pushing your lower back down. Keep pushing your mid back down, your ribs down. Can you do all that while maintaining softness in your shoulders? Softness through the arms, chest, throat, neck, jaw, muscles of the face. Move slow and controlled. This is meant to be mindful, thoughtful, slow, controlled, effortful, yes. Even though this is a gentle practice, we're still working, but nothing should be making you wince, make a face, or think, ow. You might be thinking, how many more of these do we have left? That's different though. I'm thinking the same thing too. I'm gonna say 3. Let's say 3 more. So 3 more just like this. Inhale as you lower. Exhale as you lift. 2 more, just like this. Slow and controlled. You've got it. Make sure your abs are doing the work. You've got 1 more. Notice if your hip flexors are chiming in. They might be, hopefully not, but they might. It's not the end of the world. When you get to the top, pause there. Inhale. Exhale, slowly let that left leg lower all the way down. Take a few moments. Rock the knees. Hug them in. Whatever you need. Full body stretch. All right, so now we're just gonna stretch. Now we're just gonna soften, relax, and release. All right, so knees bent, feet flat. Let's bring the right ankle to the top of the left thigh, figure 4. You're gonna softly flex your right foot to protect your right knee. You might stay just as you are, or maybe you bring both hands to the back of your left thigh, or maybe to your left shin. But if your left foot comes up off the ground, softly flex that foot. Now, softly flexing the foot. Sometimes I often see students flexing their feet as hard and as intensely as they possibly can. Your shins are going to cramp up if you do that. Instead of them being passive, just give them a little effort, just a little lift, a little engagement. That's all I want. Because when you flex your feet, you are using the muscles all the way up the shin and around the knee, and they protect the knee. So we just want a little bit of engagement to protect the knee. All right, so you might be holding and hugging your left leg in, but can you soften your shoulders? Can you reduce any unnecessary tension, but still keep the integrity of the pose? Okay. We'll stay here for a few breaths. Let's stay for 2 more breaths. Okay, and then if you're holding onto your left leg, slowly release your left leg, let the left foot come down, let the right foot come down. Pause in the center for a deep breath. Okay, all right. Now bring your left ankle to the top of the right thigh. Softly flex that foot, softly flex. You might stay here. You might bring your hands to the back of your right thigh or maybe your right shin. If your right foot comes up off the ground, softly flex that foot. Can you maybe change the grip with your fingers? Take the grip that feels awkward or foreign. And then relax your shoulders. Plug the shoulders down into the mat. Expand through the chest. Relax the throat. Reduce unnecessary tension, but keep the integrity of the pose. Let's stay for 2 more breaths. And then you can slowly release your hands from your right leg. Let the right foot come down, let the left foot come down. Pause, take a few breaths. Take a deep breath in. As you breathe out, hug your knees into your chest. You might rock from side to side. You might stay still. You might bring your hands onto your kneecaps and trace circles with your knees like you're stirring a pot. If you do that, make sure you go in both directions. You might take happy baby. Give yourself about 3 to 5 breaths, being somewhere that feels good for you before we set up for Shavasana. So you set yourself up in Shavasana. I'm going to come up to a seat, but you set yourself up in Shavasana, which again might be laying flat on your back. Your knees might be bent. You might take legs up the wall. Again, that might be something that brings your lower back a lot of relief. It is for me. So whatever works, whatever you need. But come on down into some sort of supported, reclined position. And allow everything to rest. Allow your eyes to close. Your body to feel heavy. And your stress to melt away. Imagine every breath filling your body with the ease, the softness, and the gentle quality that your breath has with it. That those qualities permeate your entire being. That with every breath, you can soften your muscles. You can soften your body. You can be at ease.
Slowly deepen your breath, filling your lungs with your breath. And again, imagine your breath permeating your entire body, filling your bones, filling your limbs, making you feel light and lifted. And it becomes effortless to move, to rock your head from side to side, to run your thumbs over the rest of your fingers and wiggle your toes. Roll your wrists and ankles. Move your arms and legs. Maybe you reach your arms overhead, stretching as if you just woke up from a long nap. Take a deep breath in. And as you breathe out, hug your knees in towards your chest. Slowly roll over onto either side in a tucked fetal position. Keeping your eyes closed and using the strength of both arms, push down into the ground and come up to a comfortable seat. And take a moment here to thank yourself for making it to your mat today. And maybe reflect on your intention. Loka samasta sukhi no bhavantu. May all beings everywhere be happy and free, and may the thoughts, words, and actions of my life contribute in some way to the happiness and freedom for all. Now we'll join our hands together in front of the heart in Anjali Mudra. To seal our practice, we'll chant the sound of Om one time. Om is sometimes spelled O-M, but more traditionally it is spelled A-U-M. So there are 3 distinct sounds when we chant the sound of Om. Think about the Ah sound coming from your belly, the U coming from your heart, and the M coming from the back of the throat. Imagine it traveling up your body as it exits. Okay, again, we'll chant the sound of Om just one time. Let's start with a deep and clearing breath. Inhale for Om. The light or the good in me acknowledges, respects, and bows to the light or the good in you. Namaste. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me. Again, this was a gentle practice working on lower back pain, issues around lower back pain. And something I was thinking about as well, this isn't really yoga or really all that related, but if there's anybody out there who is really struggling with lower back pain, because it is really something that I struggled with for most of 2020 probably, and some people have it chronic for years and years, and I just can't imagine. So I'm trying to give you all the relief I can pass on. And something that has been really helpful for me is an acupressure mat. And I'm not telling you to go get one, I'm just throwing it out there. I'll actually grab mine so you can kind of see what it looks like. So it's it's much smaller than a yoga mat, but it's got these sort of little spikes on it almost. I don't know how well you can see it, but they've got these plastic little spikes that don't hurt if you touch them at all, but if a tight muscle rests on them, it gets some relief in that way. So this is something that I actually do legs up the wall with this on my back once or twice a day, and I found that this was also very, very helpful. Same sort of idea of like foam rolling. Foam rolling your back can be a little tricky because I have a radiator and it's being loud right now, I'm sorry. But foam rolling can be tricky on your back because the foam roller is so big and you can't really get into everything quite as much as you need to. So that is the same sort of idea as foam rolling, where it's sort of uncomfortable, but has been immensely helpful for me. So that's just another thought. Again, it's called an acupressure mat. And I think that's everything, all my tips and things. If you have questions about anything, always know that you can feel free to reach out to me, message me on here, email me, whatever you need. And take care of your back, take care of your body, and have a wonderful day. Thank you so much. Bye.